going to the sideline is going to help communicate with his coaches and players, but also believes people are making a bigger deal of it than it really is.
Bullshit.
I think Kyle has contributed to that, though.
If
you know
no
what I mean?
one
Like,
had
if
ever
this
said
whole
anything,
thing was no one had talked about it until Wilks did a press conference and said, you know what, guys, the other thing is this week I'm going to go to the booth talking to the players. The feedback I've gotten is that, we're just not on the same page, and being on the field is going to help us communicate. This would have been a 24-hour story max. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Totally agree.
Actually, it would have been like, you know what? Good for them making an adjustment. Like, appreciate that. Like, not being stubborn. Gotta love it. Adjustments. Listening to the players. I mean, not too good to listen to the players. Gotta respect it. That's what they must have, a great two-way relationship. Like, that's what the story could have been.
When did Kyle say that we'll discuss it or whatever? Was that before the bye?
That was before the bye. Yes, that would
have been like after the Monday, Monday after the Bengals game.
I'm going to talk about it with, like, not even I've talked to him about it and we're thinking about it, but like, yeah, it's on. I'm telling you guys first that I'm about to go talk to him, and then I'll let him know as well.
Yeah, before he goes to Puerto Vallarta for 3 days on his bye week.
I've also told him no vacation for him.
So you don't get to do that. You just, and this is where Steve.
Didn't have to be this way, though.
It didn't have to be this way. Outsider like this, we know what big deals and not big deals are with this team, right? Like, ultimately, Bosa's holdout was becoming a bigger deal because, like, is he going to be? But there was never like, he won't be on the team. Like, everyone knows. I would say the nuts and bolts of this operation now. Some people thought I was crazy, but I said from a mile away, I'm like, this backup quarterback situation. And then Silver, it felt like, took it to the nth degree, and everyone's like, oh, he's crazy. No, he's dead fucking right. They had discussions about cutting him. Like, this team, it's like Belichick. I would say heading into the 2010s, you knew, like, oh, this guy's up for a contract. Bill's going to trade this player. You're like, wait, this guy's been 3 straight Pro Bowlers. Like, this is his last year on the Patriots. It was just easy to, like, and it was just tried and true formula. Bang, bang, bang. Like, there goes Logan. There goes this guy. Gronk's pissing him off. He's going to trade him. It's just that you know how these guys operate. And this, to me, was, I would say, out of character is probably the wrong way to put it, but the biggest curveball in terms of something like this we've seen with the coaching staff. And a lot has to do with, like you said, everyone was comfortable with each other, and everyone believed in each other, and everyone started with each other. This guy's an outsider for the first time getting to play a massive role, and it didn't go well enough. It didn't go terribly, but a 3-game stretch that it's just simply not allowed in the NFL when you view yourself as a powerhouse. It's just not allowed. It's allowed if you suck, or even if you're like going to go 7-10. People wouldn't notice, like, oh, they got to get better on defense. When you're like, it's kind of Super Bowl or bust this year. And I would even say, as long as they got Purdy on this contract, they got a couple-year window last year, this year, next year. Like, it's the pressure on this operation is fucking high.
It feels like this year it's so pressurized because, and you're right about Purdy, but like, are you going to be on the team next year? Right? You might look at the team next year and they got some first-round receiver who's trying to develop, and Jennings is on his last year, and
they do have a lot of caps. Like, they could do some big things in the offseason, though, even if Ayuk's not. Like, they got $42 million. Like, is Chase Young just sweet for them? Is he just still on the team next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're right. The window is as long as your quarterback.
They got options,
but they've knocked on the door a lot, and come up short a lot, And it's not like it's not like they're actually going to the Super Bowl every year. They've done that once.
But the other problem is there are 3 or 4 teams. Like, the Chiefs are the only team that are like, if we don't win the Super Bowl, we've still gone to 3 and won 2 of the last 5. It would suck, but we've rattled off. Like, we won championships. Then there's this group of teams, the Eagles, the Bengals. I mean, I wouldn't say the Bills are dead yet. They're trending the wrong way. That are also in that area of, like, it's kind of Super Bowl or bust for us, right? We're right there. We're knocking on the door. And I would say specifically the Eagles and the Bengals, right, are just like, they view themselves just like the Niners, if not better. Obviously, the Bengals beat shit out of the Niners.
What the Eagles have done, and you said it on the last pod, in looking like a championship level team while not being 100% is a pretty encouraging thing for them. The second the Niners stopped being 100%, they fell apart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the Chiefs have done consistently now. Like you look at the Chiefs, like I don't know, are they the same? And then they win 13 games.
Well, I would say one thing when you watch the Eagles, they're paying Bradbury a lot of money. They just traded for Byard from the Titans. Their secondary, I mean, Dak, they were getting smoked in that game. But one thing that where the coordinators have both, I would say, been under some scrutiny, but that hasn't changed when you watch the Eagles. You're like, gee, their defensive line is just all over the quarterback constantly. So you go, I think most fans, and I'd even say most coaches know that, like, unless you got Dion or Revis, like your corners are going to give up some yards, whatever. But if the guys we're paying all the money to and are supposed to be going to Pro Bowls and we drafted really high aren't fucking peppering the quarterback, we got problems. And I think that's kind of got weird. And then what happened? It wasn't quite working. He started mixing in blitzes, and then it just threw everything off. And I saw a quote from Dante Whitner to say the communication of just from the scheme to it was just everything was off. Sherman and these guys have talked about the zone and the man defense. It's just all out of whack. That's the problem. Like, yeah, the Eagles, like Bradbury might get smoked, but Reddick and Jalen Carter are in the quarterback's face. The Niners are getting smoked. You're like, God, is Joe Burrow eating a hot dog back there? I think that was the problem. If you were giving up some plays, but the defensive line, it felt like was just the same as it's been, I don't think it would have been as intense. But it feels like, well, we're all in. Like all of our chips are in on those, especially now with Chase Young on that group. If they're not dominating, no one's blaming Kasarik. They're blaming like the operation.
That's where it feels
Which
like
might, who knows? Is that even fair?
That's where it feels like the lack of sacks is not nothing. In the sense that, like,
Salah said, it's a societal problem.
I know it's we're raising our children wrong. It's all these left.
I think people like the analytical community. One thing they are right on is pressures, quarterback hits. Right.
I actually agree with Robert. It's just so funny when you say societal problem. I agree with him, but I think where it is with the Niners is like it feels like the eye test doesn't match. That's part of it too, right? And I know you look at the pressures and the PFF numbers, and Bosa's right up there, and like, it feels like it's okay. If Bosa's up there on pressures, shouldn't somebody else be getting the sacks? Right? Like, I think that's where the disconnect is when people say, like, oh, Nick's not getting sacks. Don't oversimplify it. It's like, I agree. There's other ways to create pressure, but nobody else, in theory, like he's getting double teamed and creating all this pressure. Shouldn't somebody else then be unblocked? Why isn't anybody else getting the sack? Like, they're not getting the quarterback.
I was going to send you this chat so you can put it up.
Yeah.
I found a good PFF tweet that makes you just go, because the stats are kind of in their favor. Like if you're Steve Wilks, you're like, you guys are fucking nuts. What is going on here? But you're right. The eye test for 3 straight weeks, right? For 3 straight weeks, and definitely the 2 weeks, because ultimately the Niners, like, okay, on the road, like you said, if we were going to go 13-4, losing to Cleveland, who's having this historic defense, not even that weird of a loss. But then you're playing Cousins, who obviously ended up tearing his Achilles, but that's a type player, a Pro Bowl level guy you're going to have to beat to win a Super Bowl, right? And then you play Joe Burrow, who you literally might have to play in the Super Bowl, and they just eviscerate you. So you're like, this is a problem. It's one thing to lose. It's another thing. It turns into basketball. It's like, well, we can't stop LeBron or Steph. Well, we've hung our hat on at least being able to neutralize those guys a little bit. And those guys were just having like days where their team's like, yeah, that's why we pay him $45 million. And that's what was concerning. It's not like it hadn't happened. Last year, D'Amico, the Chiefs, I forget the score, but it feels like it was 75-2 when they played the Chiefs. And I mean, they've had bad games. But I think the Cousin things was probably really jolting to everybody. It's like, that's not Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. Okay. That guy. And then for Joe Burrow, after you just get your teeth kicked in for just the gates to just open and the water just rolling in. It's like, we're just underwater now. What's going on? Felt like no one had any answers, which was scary. Cause I think Fred, did he say it in his press conference, or sometimes I end up clicking in his little press conference or his podcast he does with his wife. Fred drops a couple nuggets on there. And Fred said that, like, he maybe said it at his press conference to go, like, it'd be after you get your ass kicked, you really, it's good to, have a game the next week. He's like, but we had that happen to us. So why would we think anything different was going to happen? So maybe it is a good time to have a bye week, right? We've literally we've had 2 losses in a row that we came out worse the next week. So you want to get back on the horse. Well, not if there's no saddle and you're falling
not
off.
if you got a gas. Not if the horse needs a bath and
they fell out of gas in the Bengal game for sure.
Hey, so here's the stat that you wanted. Niners.
I mean, they have more pressures than anyone else.
56 pressure, first in the league.
You're right. It doesn't. The eye test doesn't feel like that.